Over several decades of my career working in New York at Goldman Sachs and working for the top hedge funds and venture capital firms, I developed a very comprehensive research methodology that covers all major aspects of analyzing companies. Now, there are 6 parts to the investment framework that we will discuss. And attached to this lecture is a 100-page, actually it's well over 100-page template for you, okay? And I'm going to run through exactly how to use this. And it's called AI Research Template, and it's in Word format, but you can also access it at this link here, which is attached to this lecture, in Google Docs format, okay? And what's in this document is a ton of customized prompts that Luca and I created for you that you can use to analyze any company in the world, okay? And we'll use this to create a comprehensive research report. And we'll go through this together in a heck of a lot of detail. And we're going to use Apple as an example. And we're going to use ChatGPT and other AI products to help us complete this very comprehensive report. Now, you don't have to watch all the lectures with us. If you're only interested in using a couple of the 100 or so prompts that we use in this very comprehensive document, then what you can do is you can either watch the lectures that pertain to that section, or you can just copy and paste the prompts that we've created for you for the many different ways to slice and dice or analyze a company. Yeah. Now, also attached is an Excel document, okay? And we're going to cover this a little bit later on. But a lot of the quantitative stuff that we're going to cover in creating this comprehensive research document is going to feed directly into this spreadsheet. And again, I'll talk about this spreadsheet later on, but it tells you how to create a financial model from scratch, okay, including 25 best practices. It tells you how to forecast revenue, create an income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, and value companies. And for those of you that are brand new to finance and accounting, don't worry, because I'm going to explain all of this from scratch. It's a lot easier than you think. Let's talk about how this research process document works. Now, I'm going to show this to you in Microsoft Word format. If you want, you can use Google Docs format as well, but I'm going to stick with Word. And so this here is the template, and there's instructions that I'm going to run through with you. Now, I'm going to show you what the end product is going to be. Okay, so the end product, you're going to have a table of contents showing you every aspect of a company from a research perspective. We're going to start with qualitative research, okay? Then what we're going to do is we'll talk about quantitative research. Then we'll discuss financial research, which will help you with your financial model, the Excel model. Then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about accounting issues that a company may potentially have. Like this is forensic accounting stuff that we can use ChatGPT for. It's really powerful. And then what we're going to do is we're going to forecast the model, the financial model, meaning the income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement. And then after that, we're going to value the company based on the financial statements that you forecast. And again, I'm going to explain everything about finance and accounting from scratch. Okay. Now, after we do all of that, and we even include a technical analysis at the end. After we do all of this, what we're going to do is we're going to use AI to create a 1-page executive summary of this entire document. We'll do that at the end after we've built this entire document together. And you'll notice that for every single category, and I click on a random one here, inventory, all you have to do is copy and paste this into ChatGPT or any AI product. And I'll go through this in a lot more detail as well. And we're also going to put a lot of charts together into this. ChatGPT can create charts now as well. And I'll teach you how to do all that stuff. Let me go to the beginning now of this document, and we're going to go through the instructions. And after I go through the instructions, if you want, what you can do is highlight all the instructions, meaning everything all the way up until the table of contents, and then just delete all those instructions. And then right-click on the table of contents to update the table of contents. Okay, let me take it to the top here and explain how to use this document. Okay, so the prompts that Luca and I created for you, we've tested thoroughly. And the prompts will work in most major AI products. Now, we're going to be using ChatGPT and a couple other AI products, but mainly ChatGPT. If you want, you can click here to use Bing Chat, Google Bard as well, or Claude.ai. Okay. Now, if you're using the Google Docs version of this report, then please select File, as you can see by the graphic here. Please select File and then make a copy, because there's no need to request access to this document from me if you're using Google Docs. Okay, let's go through the instructions together. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with custom instructions. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to tell ChatGPT who we are and how to provide the research to us. Now, the way to do that is step number one, and I've highlighted this all down here as well. Step number one, you're going to click on your name in ChatGPT. So let me go and do that with you. Click on my name. Then select here, Custom Instructions. And what we're going to do is we're going to give ChatGPT custom instructions so we can get the best possible response to every single prompt we enter. Here's how we do it. Here in step 2, I tell you to copy and paste text that's going to tell ChatGPT who we are. Here's how you do that. You go down here to step 2 and you take this information, you copy it, and we're going to paste it in this box here. So what I'll do is right here, I'm going to turn this on, enable for new chats, okay? And I'm going to paste that information here. And this information says, act as a financial analyst named Pablo, or any name. Pablo has an MBA in finance. He is also a CFA. Now, CFA means Certified Financial Analyst Designation. It's a 3-year designation, and you become a charter holder when you have it. The only reason I type that here is because I want it to do basic and advanced finance research for us. Okay, and there's a method to all this. So Pablo has a lot of experience in financial analysis and investing in companies. He is dedicated to helping companies and teams with their company analysis, and he believes in 360-degree analysis with very detailed overviews of the company's leadership teams, qualitative research, quantitative research, and financial research. And Luca customized this so that the outputs from what we're going to ask ChatGPT are amazing. That's step 2. Next up in step 3, we have to tell ChatGPT how we want it to respond. Number 3. So go down here to step 3, and I want you to take this information here and copy it and then paste it and put it right here. Let's quickly go through this. The writing style is Pablo's writing is very direct, concise, and non-apologetic. With a goal to help his clients, Pablo follows strict set of rules. Okay. He never mentions that he's an AI because we want this document to be conversational and professional as well. He also avoids any language constructs that could be interpreted as expressing remorse, apology, or regret. And the reason we did that is because sometimes ChatGPT cannot answer a question and it will ramble on forever saying, I'm sorry, I can't, that's my Canadian accent. I'm sorry, I can't do this. Here's why. And then we wrote here, if the events or information are beyond our scope or knowledge cutoff date, then provide a response saying, I don't know. And that's it. Now, if you want, you can use ChatGPT Plus to do what we're about to show you so that all the information is up to date. If you want to use a different AI product, I'm going to show you how to tweak this in a second. Let's run through the rest of how would you like ChatGPT to respond. Refrain from disclaimers about you not being a professional or expert. Okay, and we did that only because the disclaimer can run on and on and on. Obviously, put your own disclaimer in your research document if you want. Okay, always focus on key points, break down complex problems into tasks or smaller manageable responses. Okay, and then cite credible sources or references to your answers where possible. And if you make a mistake, recognize this and correct this. Okay, great. Now, Luca has a PhD in artificial intelligence, and so I really respect how he put this together for us. It's a real treat. All right, now let me go back here to back, and I'm going to click Save and enable this for all new chats. Okay. Now, if you don't want, and we covered all 5 steps here. Now, if you use a different AI product like Bing Chat or Google Bard or Claude AI or something else, and there's no custom instruction box, what you can do is this. Go down below step 5 here, okay, and copy and paste this as the first prompt, okay? And this is basically everything we just pasted into that custom instruction box. But at the beginning, it says, please keep the following in mind when I ask you questions from now on. So for example, if we're going to use Google Bard, I'll take this, I'll copy this here. We'll go over here to Bard, and then I will paste this at the beginning. Whoops. And with Google Bard, sometimes you have to hit Command-Shift-V to paste to strip out all of the formatting from Word. Okay, so if I hit Enter here, Bard is going to take a couple seconds to come back and say, no problem, I'll do what you told me to do. The same thing when we use Bing. You paste the same prompt here into Bing, you hit Enter, and it's going to give a commensurate or similar response to what Bard gave. Okay, it says, understood, I'm ready to assist you and all that stuff. You can do this also in other AI products. All right, let's go back here to the instructions. Okay, now that ChatGPT or the AI products we're going to use know who we are and how we want them to respond, let's talk about how to use this research report. So there's 4 steps. Okay, and once I go through this, it's going to be a breeze to the extent that you don't even have to watch all the lectures. You can just copy and paste the stuff directly into the AI product you're going to use. Now, please keep in mind that if you're not well-versed in financial statements or accounting or business topics in general, you can watch with me live here, and I'll run through in a lot of detail what everything means. All right, so step 1 of 4, after you completed the custom instructions, which we just did, you'll see that in this document, I use Apple. Okay, so Apple is the sample company for all the prompts here. Okay, so what that means is this. If I scroll down here, every single prompt we created, we have company name Apple. Same thing up here in the header, Apple. It's everywhere. So what you can do is you can do a search and replace for Apple with whatever company it is you're doing research on. So the way to do that in Microsoft Word on a Mac, which is what I'm using now, is you read these instructions, Command-Shift-H, and then up here, you type Apple, and you replace it with whatever company that you're doing research on. So for example, I can type in Microsoft, and then I can go replace all, and it's going to replace all 105 of the word Microsoft, meaning all the prompts where we used Apple. I'm going to go Control-Z or Control-Z, as we say in Canada, to undo that. On Windows, this is how you do it. Word on Windows. And if you're using Google Docs, just read these instructions here. Okay, I'm going to stick with Apple. Okay, and it's even going to change it up here in the header for you everywhere. Okay, great. And let me go and get rid of this here. Good. All right, step 2. After you've changed the company name, there are tons of prompts that we prepared for you, okay, in this comprehensive document. So here's an example of a prompt that we have. Okay. And so you'll see that the title of each section is in blue, and then we have the prompt in black. So all you do is you copy and paste the prompt directly into your AI product, like ChatGPT, for example. Let me show you what that means. So I'm going to go down here for the management here. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go to ChatGPT, and I'm going to paste this here, and it's going to generate the response for me. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do as I explain all this stuff to you is I'm not going to use the Bing plugin. I know it's going to show the data as of 2021, but I want to do it this way because I want to show you how to do this and have enough time to teach you doing this. When you use the Bing plugin, it can take a little bit longer. Okay. Also, there's a limit. I can only submit 50 or so at the time of the writing of this course, 50 prompts before I get locked out of ChatGPT Plus. So I want to set it up so that if I'm not using ChatGPT Plus, I can use regular ChatGPT, meaning this one here, without limits. Now, if we go back to this prompt that we just submitted, you're going to see that the prompt here, I wrote it as follows. Okay. And Luca and I wrote these. Again, Luca's got a PhD and 8 million degrees in AI. So find relevant information about the current CEO of the company. Use the fields below. Okay. So there are fields here that I entered in. Use the fields below and give the answer in sentence format, no more than 3 sentences per paragraph. Make sure the results in a format I can copy and paste into a document. Okay. Meaning no hidden number signs, etc. Put in a blank line between paragraphs so it's nicely formatted. And this is key here. If possible, put the sources at the bottom in this format. Source name, website, title. So it looks like this here. So you have all the sources right here that you can copy and paste into your document. Yeah. And if you want, you can add a disclosure saying you used AI to create this document. Let me go back to the prompt and talk about what's left here. Then I wrote here, then put only the entire internet address, meaning the exact page the information is from. Otherwise, they'll give you hyperlinks without, yeah, it's easier this way. These are longer hyperlinks. And make sure not to make these titles here in uppercase. So here I wrote CEO name, CEO time of the company, yada, yada, yada. And so what it does is it puts it directly in that format. Okay. Then what you can do is you can copy and paste this directly into Microsoft Word by clicking copy right here. And I'll show you that in a second. One more thing before we go on. You'll find that sometimes we don't put any items here in caps, but we still listed here. If I list tags in caps in the next sentence, include this information if you can find it, and use the tags for titles. Don't make them all in caps. And we set it up this way so that if you wanted to add something else here about the company, like any other tag, all in caps with commas, you could do that if you want to. And as I go through this comprehensive research process with you, if that's not crystal clear, it will be very soon, I promise you. Let's go back to the instructions. We're almost done here. Okay. So back up here to the instructions. Here we go. Yeah. So after you copy the prompt and you paste it into ChatGPT, of course, you can delete the prompt and just paste the results from ChatGPT. I'm going to show you that. Now, it's important to use the copy button in ChatGPT so that when you paste the data, it's just going to paste the text as is and not paste other stuff like hidden fields, etc. Let me show you what that means. So we just entered our prompt here. We've got the results here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this button here, which is copy. Then I'm going to go back to where we took that prompt from, which was CEO right here. And you always start by analyzing the management team with any company. Then what you do is you select here and then you just paste it. Okay, that's it. That's it. And sometimes you'll see asterisks. If that's the case, you can always just do a search and replace on all of those later. Control Z to undo that. All right, we're almost done with the instructions. I'm excited. All right, here we go. Great. Now, sometimes after we get the response, we can actually make a chart of the data. And I'm going to run through how to do that once we talk about prompts where there are numbers in the results. It's really powerful using ChatGPT to create charts that we can copy and paste directly into our documents. It's incredible. Yeah. All right. All right, next up, when you finish the entire document, get rid of the instructions here at the beginning. And then what you can do is you can update the table of contents by right-clicking here and then select Update Field, Update Entire Table. And it's a similar process also when you're using Google Docs. And the great thing about this is if you gut a section, you get rid of a section or a title here, it won't show up in the table of contents here. And this is clickable as well, just like it is within Google Docs. All right, we're almost ready to jump right in to do this. All right, next up, if ChatGPT or the product you're using does not provide you with the response you're looking for, you can either ask for more details or you can use another AI product like Bing Chat, Google Bard, or Claude AI, for example. One more thing. An optional step is if you add additional titles, what you can do is you can have it set up so that the table of contents catches this. And here's the instructions on how to do it in Word on Windows or Mac and on Google Docs here. Let me show you what that means. So let's go down here to CEO. And let's say that we wanted to add here head of sales. Okay, so let's say we added here another part for head of sales. Okay, so this here is heading 3. The founder here is heading 3. Head of sales, we click here on heading 3. Okay, and then you're going to put your results from your prompt here. Now watch what happens when I go back to repaginate, that's a word, the table of contents. So right here, you see that there's no head of sales. So if I right click here and I select update entire table, head of sales is going to be added here as well. If I delete it and then repaginate or re-update the table of contents, that's gone obviously as well. So I'm going to update this and get rid of that. Gone. Okay. And I think we're ready to go. Yeah. Oh, one more thing, couple more things. If the research process that we're going to be using by asking the open internet through ChatGPT to help us with answers to stuff, if you can't get the responses and you've tried other AI products and you can't get the best responses you want, then what you can do is you can use a product like Claude.ai and you can upload an annual report and ask questions that way. Let me show you what that means. This is really powerful. Now, Claude works with this. I'm sure there's other AI products that works similar to what I'm showing you. Now, Claude you can get for free, but there's a limit in terms of the size of files you can upload. So I pay $20 a month because it helps me with my investment research quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the Microsoft annual report to 10K. It's like, I don't know, 100, 200 pages or something like that. So I'm going to upload this directly to Claude. And I'm going to ask Claude questions based on the annual report. So watch this. Give me a table of the top 5 risks for the company. You hit enter. And what it's going to do is it's going to go to that document and it's going to put in table format those risks. And so the reason I mention that is if you can't get all the information from the internet, you can always download publicly available annual reports or industry reports or anything you want. You can upload up to 5 at the same time, right? This is me buying time till it populates the answer. But you can upload 5 documents at the same time and it'll do research on that. Really, really powerful. Yeah. So I'm going to go into high-speed mode right now and show you what this looks like. Oh, there you go. Actually, I didn't have to go into high-speed mode. Stop right there. Great. So here are the 5 top risks from Microsoft's annual report. So you can use this as another tool in your toolbox or arrow in your quiver, so to speak. And then what you can do is just copy that and put that in your document if you want to. Really powerful, eh? It's amazing. This stuff changes so fast. Okay, great. And I think we're ready. Yeah. And at the very end, what we can do is we can upload this entire document into Claude or any other AI product or other AI products, I should say. And then ask Claude to give you a 1-page executive summary of this document. So it'll look something like this. Give me 10 bullet points that summarizes the document. Okay. And I might have to go into high-speed mode for this. So here's the time right now. I will go into high-speed mode until it's done with this. As you can see here, the 10 bullet points that summarize this attached document. We can use a similar process here as well for creating our executive summary at the very end. Now that I've talked about the Word document, I want to talk about the Excel document as well. So the point of this research here is not just to do a qualitative analysis, but also a quantitative analysis. And so a lot of what we do, especially after the qualitative section is done here, once we get to the quantitative research part here, a lot of this data is going to be very relevant for creating our financial model. And it even gets more specific once we do research on financial research as well. And so all this stuff, including accounting red flags, forensic accounting, which we're going to use ChatGPT for, and the financial model analysis stuff is going to feed directly into the second part, the second document that you can use to create your research report. And so what I'll do is in these sections you could see right here, I'll teach you how to use this and how to create your financial statements from scratch. And what we create in here, we're also going to take parts of and paste special as images into our financial statement, into our research documents. And all the instructions are written there as well. So for example, right here, I'm going to click here on this field. Now, if you can't see this field right here, if you open this Excel document, then you can click here on View and select Formula Bar. So what I can do is I can select here income statement data. I can copy this and paste special into our document. The same thing with revenue data, balance sheet information, and much, much more. Now, the way that I'm going to be doing this is here, when we discuss the financial model analysis and forecast on page 100, and your document might be a lot bigger than this by the time you're done, if you want to make it comprehensive, is I'm going to show you exactly where to paste everything. And it's going to be very intuitive. I know it seems like a lot. Please don't be overwhelmed, because I'm going to break this down into manageable components and teach you everything from scratch. And while I teach you this stuff, if you already know what a balance sheet is or income statement, you can always just fast forward the lectures. And I'll give you plenty of lower third graphics to tell you where to fast forward to, etc. Okay, great. And the reason why we always value companies using 3 methodologies, not just one, but 3. And we're going to use price to revenue, price to earnings, and DCF, discounted cash flow. I'll teach you that from scratch. The reason we do this is quite often on the deals I've worked on Wall Street, one of the valuation methodologies where you come up with a target price for a company, one of the methodologies, we don't know which one, is way off. And if you get the average target price for all 3, okay, and as you type in data into this document, all this stuff will update for you. But it will take an average target price of all 3, meaning using price to revenue, price to earnings, as well as discounted cash flow. Now, with this document, all you have to do is whenever you see blue text, that's where you type. And everything else is taken care of for you, everything. And this will make a lot more sense to you once we create this together. Okay, so that once we get to the other valuation section, there's just a couple line items that you change and everything will automatically be updated for you. This is going to be a lot of fun. When analyzing a company, the most important thing to look at is the management team. It doesn't matter how good the prospects are for the company or how awesome the market is that they're in if they don't have a great management team. You know, when I used to work in venture capital, we used to say the jockey is more important than the horse. So when you're analyzing a management team, of course, you start off with the CEO. And so we created the prompt here for you. So all you do is you copy and paste this directly into ChatGPT or whatever AI product it is you're using. Now, down here, we have a bunch of other fields that we added. You can always remove 1 or 2 of these fields here, such as CEO time at the company, CEO previous work experience, etc. You can remove these or add new ones with a comma and then all in caps. And then the AI will pick that up when it provides you with a response. So let's take this here for the CEO, and let's go here to ChatGPT, and let's paste it in. And then we'll get a response, okay? And I'm only going to be using the basic ChatGPT product because I'm going to be submitting just a ton of requests, and I'll get locked out after a couple of hours. And also, it's a lot faster to show it to you this way as well. But if you want more up-to-date information, what we recommend doing is either go here to browse with Bing, or what you can do is you can browse with Bard, or you can actually go to Bing Chat itself and submit the queries that way. So let me start over here, and I will paste in our first prompt. Okay, great. Okay, so here it is here. You can submit this again if you want to and ask ChatGPT to make these titles here lowercase. Sometimes you have to submit a prompt a couple of times in order for that to work. But I'll just stick with uppercase for now, it's fine. So here's the background on Tim Cook. He's been with the company since 1998. He was the COO for a while, actually. He's an incredible operator, but there are some weaknesses as well that some investors talk about, which are highlighted right here. There's also discussion of public sentiment about him. And then down here is the sources for this prompt. So the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to select copy here, and then we're going to go back here and paste over top of this completely. Great. And if you want to, what you can also do is you can highlight anything that's all in caps. Then you can go here and just capitalize each word if you want to. Or since this here is heading 2 and this is heading 3, you can actually go and make this here a heading 4 for all these sub topics here, and then repaginate your table of contents to show those there if you want to. Okay. And down here, we have the hyperlinks as well. Now, when you do the same thing for CFO, what you do is you highlight this information here, and we can find out details about the CFO here. Now, of course, with all C-level executives, you want to make sure they've had a lot of experience before they're put into that place. And the best C-level executives are founders of companies. And so whenever I look to invest in a company, especially when it's private or smaller, and even when it's public or a new IPO, I love to make sure that the founder is still somewhat engaged or involved with the company. And the reason why it's important to stress this is because founders are usually very long-term focused. Jeff Bezos, for example, when he was running Amazon, he didn't get on the quarterly earnings calls. He didn't really care because he was so long-term focused always. Now, what happens quite often is when somebody becomes CEO and is not a founder, and when the founder is no longer involved with the day-to-day operations of the company, bureaucracy can set in, and a lot of C-level executives are focused on short-term metrics only, like the given quarter, for example. And a lot of times, CEOs that are not founders, what they'll do is they'll try to appeal to short-term investors. And other C-level executives in the company will know that if they try to take a risk and create a new product or a department, and if they fail, they're no longer climbing that corporate ladder. And so bureaucracy sets in. So this is why we start any analysis from a qualitative perspective with an analysis of the management team. Now, if you want, you can copy and paste this directly here into ChatGPT or use Bard or any product you want. Let's use Bard right now. And we'll paste this. And I forgot, when you use Bard, you got to hit Control-Shift-V to paste special. And then similar to what we did with ChatGPT for the CEO, Tim Cook in this case, we're going to select copy and paste and put this directly into our document. Let me submit that again. Sometimes you have to submit it a few times. Oh, here we go. Actually came through. My bad. All right. So Luca, not to be confused with Luca, who's making this course with me, is the CFO. He's been there for 9 years, and here is his work history. And what you can do is you can copy this information if you want to, and sometimes they'll give you 2 different drafts, and you can look at what draft you like the best and copy and paste that directly into your document. So what I'll do is, just for fun, I'm going to highlight this here. You can either copy it or select here to copy the information. And I'm going to paste it directly into our document right here. Okay, great. Doesn't look the exact same as this. So what you can do is you can come over here and paintbrush this. And this works also in Google Docs. And then you can highlight all this information here and it will put it in the same font. Or you can just paste special all the time. There you go. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus mainly on using ChatGPT and not the other products going forward. Do the same thing now for the COO as well, and the founder, if the founder is involved with the company still. And after you're done that, then you can move on to the strengths and weaknesses of the entire management team. Now, for the strengths and weaknesses, what we did was we asked for investor sentiment on the current management team. As with a lot of these prompts, we asked for no more than 3 sentences per paragraph as well. So let me go through this really quickly, and I'll copy this directly into ChatGPT, and I'll paste this as well so that we're almost done with the management team. Submit. And this is incredibly helpful because we have all of these sources right here. So what we can do, again, we copy and we paste this directly over top of the prompt, and we move on to the next question. Next up, we've got board members. It's important to analyze who the board is as well. Obviously, it's not as important as the core management team, meaning the C-level executives, CEO, CFO, COO, etc. But it's important to analyze the board because quite often the board, what they can do is they can act as kind of a prosthetic extension of the management team to the extent that they can help the company when it comes to M&A or PR issues, etc. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this and paste this directly into the document, and then we'll be done here with the management team. So let me paste here. I'll go into high-speed mode to pretty this up and finish this prompt. All right, we're done here. Al Gore, former Vice President of the United States, on the board as well. Let's copy this and let's paste this directly into board members right here. And we are now done analyzing the management team. Moving on to the company history. Similar to other prompts, you just copy this and paste this directly into ChatGPT or whatever AI product you're using, and you will get the responses as well. You can always customize this if you want to by changing the fields we have down here all in caps. And what you want to look for is if the company has materially pivoted since it's been founded. It can be a positive thing or a negative. It's a positive thing for companies like Intel, for example. They were in the semiconductor sector, and they found that they were losing market share to Japanese companies in the 1980s, so they pivoted to focus on the processor market, etc. And as you read through the responses for all of these prompts, you might have follow-up questions to ask ChatGPT as well that you can add to your due diligence process here. When it comes to analyzing the company's products or services, you can copy and paste this prompt. As with all prompts here, we've customized this so that it focuses on all the products and services of the company itself. If you want, you can add additional fields right here, all in caps, as we've mentioned before. So let me copy this, and I'm going to show you how to make a chart as well, if there's data that is given to us as well. So let me copy this, and I'll paste this as always directly here in ChatGPT, and we'll get a response. Now, as you can see, we have the strengths, weaknesses, and descriptions for all products and services that the company has, including iPad, Mac, iPhone, etc. You'll see that there are a lot of numbers here as well that we can use to create charts and put into our research report. Let me show you how to do that. So first of all, let's copy this prompt and let's paste it over top here under products and services. And you'll notice right below here, I wrote optional prompt instructions. And this is to be completed after you complete the first prompt. Now, what I'm about to show you only makes sense to do if you have data, meaning numbers, in your prompt response. So you can create charts or have ChatGPT do this for you. So the way that you do this is step one, you copy the prompt, which we just did. It's in the clipboard right now. Then we're going to open a new chat in ChatGPT. And what this is going to do is we're going to paste in a second what's in the clipboard in order to create a chart of the data that was just created for us. Let's go back to our document for the next step. So next up, what we're going to do is we're going to type exactly this. Provide me with a chart of the revenue numbers and nothing else of. And then we're going to paste what's in the clipboard. Now, the reason why we phrase it this way is because we want just the revenue numbers to be in a chart. And also, we don't want ChatGPT to create tons of text. We just want a chart. So I'm going to type this: provide me with a chart of the revenue numbers only and nothing else. Provide me with a chart of the revenue numbers and nothing else of, it's okay if you make typos, paste. And so a chart is going to be created for us. Sometimes it looks like this. And so what we can do is we could say, not a table, a chart. And we can always customize a table if we want to as well, the chart after it's completed, by asking it to move the key somewhere else, meaning the legend, etc. So this looks pretty good right here, actually. We can use this as is if we want to. And we know the data source is from the data that we already pasted in. So now what we're going to do is we are going to paste in that chart. And it's not as simple as you think it is. Because if you just right-click on the chart and copy and paste, it doesn't always work. So there's a couple of ways to do it. If you're using Windows, please read the instructions right here. If you're using a Mac, which I am, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. Okay. And then you paste and delete all this stuff here. So let me show you how to do it. So I'm using a Mac. So I'm going to hit Command-Shift-4. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this. And wherever it's saved on your computer is where you're going to insert it from. So for most people, when you do a screen image like I just did there, it's saved on the desktop. For me, I have it saved somewhere else. You go to Insert, Pictures, from a file. And then for me, I had it saved directly to this directory here. And that's what it looks like. So let's insert it. There you go. Looks nice. And if you find that there's a bit of a frame that shows up because you didn't copy all the way around it, you can always click on it, and then you can go to crop and crop it just a little bit to pretty it up to get rid of that frame as well. When investors invest in a company, they're interested in what are called catalysts and drivers. Catalysts are a reason to get investors excited about a stock. And the best way for me to explain this is to use a prop, as I am Canadian, and my favorite athlete growing up was Wayne Gretzky. Now, Wayne Gretzky was successful, he said, not because he skates where the puck is, but rather because he skates where the puck is going to be. By the same token, we want to invest in companies that investors are going to like, and those are called catalysts. And I'll give you an example. In early 2012, I invested in Lionsgate Film, ticker LGF. And the reason I did was because I had read the Hunger Game books, which were great. And I read that LGF, the film company, was going to make 3 or 4 movies of the Hunger Games over the next couple of years. And so those were catalysts, meaning events that were going to occur that would get investors interested in the stock. Other catalysts could include in the video game sector with Take-Two Interactive, ticker TTWO, which is the parent company of Rockstar Games. When they release Grand Theft Auto 6, investors will likely get excited about it. So you want to look for a catalyst or an event. With respect to Apple, it could be the release of a new product, a new groundbreaking product, or a new version of the iPhone, etc. So that's what a catalyst is. Now, a driver is usually what makes a stock or a company do well or not do well. And every sector has different drivers. So if you're investing in a biotech company, a driver might be something that makes revenue go up, like FDA approval or detail on clinical trials for a new drug. If you're investing in a cyclical company like Caterpillar, ticker CAT, or Komatsu in Japan, a driver is going to be global GDP growth because cyclical companies are really tied to the economic cycles, and they lose a lot of money when times aren't good, when GDP growth is negative, and vice versa as well. So every sector, every company has their own drivers. And so you got to look at that closely. For retail companies like Lululemon, ticker LULU, or Starbucks, ticker SBUX, the driver and what you look at is same-store sales. You look at organic growth year over year of each individual store, for example. Now, let's copy and paste this directly into ChatGPT so we can get more details on the drivers and catalysts for Apple in this hypothetical example here. So it's telling us the primary catalyst is product innovation, which makes sense. It's brand new products being released. And you can always follow up by saying, give me examples of drivers or catalysts coming up in the marketplace. Secondary catalyst, expansion into new markets, like when Apple was really aggressively expanding in China, investors got really excited about that. And there's more catalysts listed here. And then in terms of drivers, it's got brand loyalty, ecosystem stickiness, etc. I would say, and you can't just completely rely on ChatGPT. I would say another driver is same-store sales within the Apple Store, because they have tons of Apple stores all over the world as well. All right. Copy, and then I will go back here and paste this in, and we are done with drivers. Now, if you ever see any data in the results of the prompt, you can always follow up by getting ChatGPT to make a chart for you as well. Investors pay close attention to what are called cyclical and secular trends for companies. Let me kick it off with cyclical trends. So cyclical means the economic cycles of a company or the world, GDP growth globally. And so it's important to understand how the cyclicality of an economic cycle impacts a company. So if a company is in, let's say, the healthcare sector, and people still get sick just as often, if not more often, during economic recessions, then you would say that that sector is counter-cyclical. So it doesn't really matter as much about what global GDP does because people get sick no matter what, for example. There are other companies that are very much impacted by the cyclical nature of economic growth. So if, say, it's a high-priced iPhone, then they probably wouldn't sell as many high-priced iPhones, meaning the highest tier, when the economy is not doing well. And so it's really important to understand and keep in mind where we are in the economic cycle. It impacts different companies differently. When it comes to secular trends is a long-term trend that impacts a market. So, for example, we had the mainframe market, which was really popular in computing land up until maybe the 1980s. And the mainframe was in secular decline, meaning it was becoming less and less relevant over time. And there's also secular growth stories, like when Apple and Google first introduced their mobile devices in 2007. That was a secular growth sector, regardless of the financial crisis in 2008, because the install base globally and market share for smartphones was very low at that time. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, so to speak. And so we saw explosive growth in mobile smartphone adoption for many years, actually. So you have to understand where we are when it comes to a secular growth sector and where we are when it comes to the cyclical nature of the economy. And if you're ever confused about this stuff when you get the response directly from ChatGPT, you can also ask for more details or just ask, what does this term mean? Let's copy this and let's paste this now directly into ChatGPT to get our prompt for cyclical and secular trends. Copy, paste. So here it tells us what the impact on global GDP is, meaning cyclical trends. For Apple, consumer spending gets hit pretty hard during economic downturns. Obviously, it hurts Apple because Apple is kind of a retail company too. They have lots of Apple stores. When it comes to secular growth here, we find out here that there are several secular growth markets, such as earpods, Apple Watch, etc. It's fascinating because the AirPods, I should say, Apple makes more money every year from sales of AirPods than all of Adobe. It's a monster category for them. And so here we have all the statistics as well for this, and we can copy and paste this directly into our document. And again, if you see numbers here, you can always create a chart or ask ChatGPT to create a chart. When it comes to the target market, what that refers to is usually the largest portion of revenue for a company in terms of what market it's going after. So let's copy and paste the target market data here for Apple into ChatGPT. And here we have the results for Apple's target markets. It's really interesting The results, we know that consumer is a big focus for them through iPhones, iPads, etc. Emerging markets as well, especially in China. Surprised that China isn't mentioned here. Enterprise market is something Apple's been trying to get into for many years. For decades, they were kind of known as a retail company with some exposure to education. They're trying to crack this market as well. Microsoft still has the dominant market share in that sector. Wearables and tech, of course, AR and VR, automotive industry. Now, this is interesting here because it says that this is just a rumor, so to speak. And here are the sources, Mac Rumors and Apple's website, when it comes to automotive. And one way to do due diligence on a company and find out what they're thinking about in terms of what markets are going to focus on longer term is to go to their website and go to the recruiting section of their website and find out what jobs they're hiring for. And a couple of years ago, Apple was hiring a ton of people that were experts in automotive-based operating systems, which might have tipped some people's hats to thinking that maybe they'll enter this market in the long run. And as always, you can ask for additional information, follow-up prompts here in ChatGPT, and you can always quantify this information as well. You can say, show me this with numbers, so you can create charts if you want. Now let's copy and paste this into our document. You can create an entire document just on competition. Now, what we've done here is we've asked ChatGPT to find all direct and indirect competitors. And for every competitor that it finds, we want ChatGPT to give us the name, the website, the product service they compete in, advantages, disadvantages, and much more. So let me copy and paste this directly into ChatGPT to get more color when it comes to the competitive environment for Apple. And ChatGPT did an excellent job here at finding all the larger competitors for Apple. It looked at the website name, the advantages, disadvantages, and much more. So as always, we can copy and paste this directly into our document, and we have the sources as well right here. In terms of production and distribution, this doesn't apply to every company, but if a company creates a product, obviously you look at production closely. Distribution is key though. And when you look at distribution, you look at two aspects, direct sales and indirect sales. Direct sales means you have salespeople that work at the company that are calling customers and selling directly. Indirect sales, which is also referred to as the channel, is when products are sold through somebody else. So for example, Apple's indirect sales might be through Best Buy, ticker BBY, which is a big consumer electronics store in the United States, where Apple also sells its products through. It's important to analyze direct and indirect sales because direct sales, the margins are much higher. You keep more of the profit, whereas with indirect sales, you keep less of the product because somebody else is making money redistributing it, like Walmart, for example, that sells lots of consumer electronic products. Now, in terms of indirect sales, it's always crucial to have that channel in place because quite often those are customers you would never reach anyway. So for me, for example, I teach on Udemy, and Udemy for me is indirect sales. There's customers all over the world I'd never be able to reach otherwise. Let's copy and paste the production and distribution analysis into ChatGPT. I'm blown away at ChatGPT's response here. It's incredible. So first of all, it talks about production of all the major products, the distribution channels as well, meaning through the Apple stores, online stores, third-party retailers, meaning indirect, etc. It talks about all the major products, iPhone, Mac, iPad, Apple Watch, etc. It talks about Apple's direct sales strategy in just 3 bullet points. It's concise, it works, less is more. Also the indirect distribution as well. As I mentioned, companies like Best Buy is referred to as an indirect distribution channel. It's a reseller. You've also got the competitive sales strategy for Apple, and then it goes through all the competitors and all the competitors' direct sales strategy and indirect sales strategy as well for each individual product. This is unbelievable. And again, all the sources are listed here. So as always, we copy and paste this directly into our document. When it comes to suppliers and components, you want to make sure that no one or two companies sell most of the product to the individual company itself. It's just like the global oil markets. There's a handful of countries that kind of dominate global oil distribution. So let's copy and paste this into ChatGPT and see what it comes up with when it comes to suppliers and components. Very concise answer right here. One of the biggest suppliers and assembly companies they partner with is the EMS company, electronic manufacturing services company called Foxconn. They partner with, of course, in China. Also, there's kind of co-opetition with Samsung, their competitor, and they cooperate with them as well because they supply them with a lot of components to their smartphones, etc. Broadcom with Wi-Fi chips, etc. Now, there's much more to it than just these three companies. Right here, you can get the top 10 Apple suppliers. You can always ask ChatGPT for much more details in terms of who the top suppliers are and producers. You can ask for which countries they're based in from a geopolitical risk perspective, and you can even ask ChatGPT to provide a table of the revenue exposure to different companies when it comes to suppliers as well as components. Now let me go back and paste this information here into our document. When it comes to commodities exposure, it's very important from a supply chain perspective to understand if a company has input products where the commodity price is very volatile. So if they have a lot of copper products in the production of what they make and resell to customers, you have to understand what percent of the bill of materials, meaning the cost of goods sold, is from a certain commodity like copper, for example. And then you can take it a step further by asking ChatGPT and doing research with other AI products and finding out if the company has hedging policies in place, meaning do they use derivative instruments to make sure that if the price of a commodity goes up materially, will that impact the amount they have to pay for it? Let's copy and paste commodities exposure into ChatGPT to see what we get from a due diligence research perspective. And here are the results. Copper is mentioned, so is aluminum, which I guess goes on the Apple Mac cases. You've also got rare earth elements as well. Silicon, of course, cobalt, copper, as we mentioned before. Again, you can ask ChatGPT for more color, more details on each of the exposures that Apple has to all of these aforementioned commodities right here. Let's copy this and paste this into our documents. When doing an analysis in R&D, it's important to look at internal versus outsourced R&D. And it's also important to analyze if a company can actually invest in R&D and produce products. If they can't, then it makes more sense for them to buy versus build, which is something that investment bankers look at all the time. So let's copy here this R&D prompt and let's paste it into ChatGPT. So from a qualitative perspective, there's really not much to it here because most of Apple's R&D is internally generated. The exception would be for companies they purchased in the past, for example, Beats, to get access to the audible technologies that are part of AirPods right now. Okay, so let's copy and paste this directly into our document here. As always, if you see numbers here, revenue numbers, etc., you can always ask ChatGPT to create a chart for you. Intellectual property is crucial to analyze from a qualitative perspective when it comes to barriers to entry. Now, what we've done is in this prompt here, we've broken down this IP or intellectual property analysis into three different parts for ChatGPT. One of them is copyrights. We also have trademarks and patents. Copyrights means something that you protect, like code or music. And usually the way it works is when you own the copyright to something, you own it and nobody can touch it until 50 years after you pass away. And that's why a lot of classical music is not copyrighted. But for artists like Paul McCartney or Bruno Mars, etc., you obviously can't touch that. Now, be really careful also on the topic of copyright when you're using ChatGPT, when you're using in-style writing. Because what you can do with InStyle is you can tell ChatGPT to write something using somebody else's style. And this led to a big strike in Hollywood with respect to a lot of the screenwriters saying that you cannot use my style of writing in your movies and your scripts, etc. The same thing with ChatGPT and all AI products. Be really, really careful about this. So we talked about copyrights, and copyrights usually have a C with a circle around them. In terms of the next category here, which is trademarks. Trademarks usually means a brand that you can't copy, like Coca-Cola or Apple's logo, for example. And trademarks are usually shown with TM, circle around, trademark, or R for registered trademark. The last one is patents. And this applies mainly to biotech companies and healthcare companies, meaning the way that you produce something, like a drug, for example. Apple does have a bunch of patents as well. And what you can do if you want is you can do a search on Apple patents or any patents online. And you can see these, it looks like these rudimentary drawings of what a product might be, like a kid writing with a pencil. And quite often this can tip your hat and help the marketplace understand what products are coming next. For example, several years ago, Apple created a bunch of patents or drawings of VR products. And that's why the marketplace knows that a VR product was being worked on at Apple. Now, what we also want to do here is with patents, I wrote here, if possible, mention the expiration date for these here, especially copyrights and trademarks. Without further ado, let's copy this and paste this directly into ChatGPT so we can understand the copyrights, patents, and trademarks in more detail when it comes to Apple. Now, we see here an overview of Apple's copyrights, trademarks, and patents. It says here 70 years. I thought it was 50 years. We got trademarks here, the trademark on the word iPhone, Mac, etc. And it tells you that you can renew these every 10 years or so. And then you've got patents here as well. It talks about it in more detail. Now, you can always follow up by asking ChatGPT or whatever AI product you're using for more details on these, and also to create a table if you want to, and specifically state when these patents, trademarks, copyrights, etc. are going to expire. You can also go directly to the source. So in this case, we've got the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office database, that's uspto.gov, and then we got copyright.gov. So what I'm going to do, and you can skip the rest of this lecture if you want to, I'm going to show you those two aforementioned websites because it's a great way for you to do research on trademarks, patents, copyrights, etc. for companies that you might want to start or your competition or companies that you're doing due diligence on. Let's kick it off with copyright.gov. And the way this works, and I've copyrighted a lot of my courses, etc., is you get all of the content for your courses or your books or whatever it is, and you put it on a little USB token. It's old school, the way it works. And you mail it in to them. And what you can do is you can always go to LegalZoom.com and get lawyers on the cheap to create this for you. You can always do a search here directly into anybody's copyright here, for example. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do some research here, and I'm going to search the copyright records. In this case, what I'll do is I'll do a search for Apple, and we can find out what copyrights they have here. So I'm going to type here Apple, and I think it's Apple Inc. They rebranded themselves from Apple Computer to Apple Inc. many years ago. So let's go here. Here's Apple Inc. Okay. And I'm certainly not an expert in this area at all, but you might want to do a more general search here for the name of the company here. So let me try that again. Apple Inc. Go. Here you go. There's tons of them right here. 1987, the Macintosh SE. And then more recently too, and there's gazillions of pages of this as well. They have tons and tons of copyright, etc. Let's click on one of them right here, the iMac G3 from 1999, when I was in my 20s. And you can find out more details on this. Okay. You can even do a search for any company or any person. Like for me, for example, if I do a search on my name, Haroon, what will come up is Haroon Education Ventures. And a lot of my courses here that I've copyrighted, including all of this stuff here, my MBA degree program. Next up, what you can do is you can go to uspto.gov. And this is where you go, in the United States at least, to look at patents and trademarks. So patents, you can do a search right here. You can search for patents to see what patents Apple has filed, so you can understand the pipeline of future products. You can also search here for trademarks. You can search on trademarks here. And this can really help you understand what the future products are for a company. So let's search the trademark database for Apple. So if we click right here, and let's do a search on iPhone, for example. So we can click here on iPhone 11 to learn about iPhone's trademark for this as well. You can even type up other company names to find out what these companies are thinking in terms of future products. So I typed here on Microsoft. Let's see what comes up here. So here is Microsoft Start. What is this? So you can click here to learn more about these products, what this means, etc. Interesting. You can get lost in this as well. I once found a lot of cloud computing products that Microsoft was going to be releasing that really helped me from a due diligence perspective understand the company longer term. Search for me. You're not supposed to search yourself. And you can see here that I've got a bunch of my stuff that here is live. If it says dead, it means that I didn't renew it or I couldn't get that trademark for that product, so to speak. One more thing, we have to copy this and paste this directly in our document, and we are now done looking at IP, meaning intellectual property. When it comes to lawsuits, material lawsuits and dollar amounts for lawsuits are usually mentioned in the annual report, meaning the 10K, under the risk section. You can also do a search within ChatGPT as well and ask ChatGPT if you want to make a table of all material lawsuits. Now, what we wrote here was list dollar amounts as well. And after we submit this, if we get a lot of data, we can make a chart out of it as well, which I'll try to do. So let's copy this and let's go over to ChatGPT and do a search for lawsuits. So here we have the lawsuits listed. It's not currently up to date. You can always search with Google Bard for more up-to-date information, or you can go to Bing Chat, or you can use the Chat with Bing feature within ChatGPT if you want to get more up-to-date information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask here to put this into a table, put this in a table, and also sort by dollar amount of open lawsuits, meaning not resolved yet. I'm not too happy with this response here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go over to Bing Chat here, and I'm going to try this again. I'm going to paste this here, and I'll hit go. This is why we use multiple AI products when doing our due diligence. This is much better. We've got battery gate. Remember, the battery didn't work if you held the iPhone a certain way. We got a couple others that are being listed here as well. It's only part of the data. So you have to piece it together using multiple sources. You might also be able to search LexisNexis, which is kind of like Bloomberg, but for lawyers. Bloomberg's financial data for people on Wall Street. And you might be able to get more details on this. Or you might have to ask your question in a different way. So I'm going to try one more crack at this using Chat with Bing, ChatGPT with Bing here, and see if we can get more details on this. So I'm going to go browse with Bing, I should say, and let's try it one more time. All right, this result is a lot better here. We have 10 lawsuits listed here. What we can do is we'll copy this and put this into our document right now once it's done generating. Now, I did this in high-speed mode because I used the Bing chat feature within ChatGPT to get real-time data or more up-to-date data, and it takes a while to use this. So let me copy this, and I'll put this into our document here. Great. One more thing. What I'm going to do is see if I can get a chart of this data. So I'm going to click here and I'll type this. We'll see if this works. This will be fun. Provide me with a bar chart and nothing else for, and I know I made a spelling mistake, but that's okay. Let's see what happens. Not the most helpful bar chart, but we can put that in our document if we wanted to. So what I'll do is I'll go into high-speed mode, I'll copy this and paste it and put it into our documents. When it comes to doing research on ethics on a company, you can always type down all the tags you want to look for. So in this case, I wrote sustainability and environmental responsibility. You can add comma and add more tags there if you wanted to. What we also mentioned here was accusations of unethical business practices, as well as accounting fraud issues, price fixing abuses, etc. And so let me copy this and let's paste this into ChatGPT to see what we find out about ethical issues or lack thereof. It did a pretty good job of an analysis here. Apple's very environmentally friendly. We know that. The biggest issue here is, I guess, with respect to working conditions with Foxconn and other business partners that they have. So you can either ask more questions, follow-up questions to ChatGPT here if you want to, and even quantify the results, although we are doing a qualitative analysis now. But let me paste this into our document here, and we are now done with ethics. When it comes to customer service due diligence, what we're looking for are usually negative customer service comments, which I wrote here, as well as positive feedback from places like Yelp or negative feedback as well. Logistics when it comes to customer service, customer loyalty and retention, consumer reports, as well as Twitter comments, if material. Now it's called X sentiment, etc. So let's copy this and paste it to see what we come up with from a customer service perspective. Now, you can always go to the sources to do more due diligence on all of these customer service topics, of course. It does a pretty good job of it, actually. It talks about customer service with respect to the Genius Bar in the Apple stores. And I remember Jeff Bezos many years ago said that a company is only as good as its customer service, and that profits and customer service are almost perfectly co-reliant in the long run. So it's something near and dear to my heart that I pay really, really close attention to here. So let's copy this and let's paste this into our document, and we are now done with customer service. When it comes to recruiting and retention, what we need to keep in mind is the recruiting strategy, the turnover, meaning do people leave quite often, and if so, why? We also want to find out the average tenure, meaning the average number of years people have been at the company. And one of the most important things to look at is stock option retention comments. And so the way that stock options work is employees are given a number of shares in the company, but they can't cash them in every year. So they have the option to buy shares in the future. So for example, let's say you're an employee at Apple and you're there for your first year. At the end of the first year, they give you a bunch of options, but you cannot cash them in, meaning you can't execute the options and sell the stock. You cannot sell them for several years. And that's called a vesting process. So quite often what happens with private and public companies is when you're given shares at the end of a year, you can cash them in 4 years from now. So if you leave next year, you lose them. And at the end of the second year, they give you more options that vest, or you can cash them in 4 years from then. So if you leave after 2 years, you're losing a couple years worth of options. And so those are called golden handcuffs, and it really ties you to the company. So it's really important to look at that from a retention perspective. So let me take this here and copy this into ChatGPT to see what we get for options and retention strategies when it comes to Apple. And here are the results. Now you'll notice here that the results came from Quora, which is a superb place to ask people questions. It's kind of like Reddit. And right here from Glassdoor. Glassdoor is a wonderful website to use to find out the salaries for companies and the pros and cons of working at a company, or how to even interview at a company. So let's go to the top here and see what it came up with. So it talks about its secretive and selective hiring process. Employee turnover looks like it's the average tenure is every 5 years. That's pretty good. In terms of stock options, like we were saying before, let's see if they have the vesting schedule. Here we go. It's usually restricted stock units vest over a 4-year period with 25% vesting each year. So again, if you leave after a year, you're leaving money on the table. And so this keeps you with the company longer term. And this is something that we like to see. You can also read about additional benefits, etc., for the company. Now let's copy and paste this into our document. Select copy up here. And we are now done with recruiting and retention. When it comes to understanding a company's sales strategies, it's really important to look into upselling and cross-selling. Upselling means somebody buys a cheaper product and then they get upsold to buy something more expensive. So say, for example, you walk into the Apple store and you buy AirPods, and the sales rep there will upsell you and maybe get you interested in purchasing a more expensive product like an iPhone or a Mac. So that's upselling. Cross-selling is when you buy a similar product, or I should say a similar price product. So let's say that you buy maybe the strap for an Apple Watch, which is expensive. Then they cross-sell you to buy AirPods as well, for example. So there's also something called a call to action, a CTA. And this is more relevant for internet-based companies. A call to action might be an advertisement where it says, click here to purchase this product. Or a call to action might be you download a book from people that teach online. This is what I do. And the call to action is I get your email address and then I can upsell or cross-sell other products to you. Of course, we keep GDPR in mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this into ChatGPT and see what we get for sales strategies. Let's take a look at the results. You'll notice here that there's also commentary on the competition because we actually put this as part of the prompt here. Let's look at the results here. Okay, call to action is mentioned. Cross-selling and upselling, which is exactly what I explained a minute ago. You've got pricing strategy, advertising strategy, contingency plans, and here's the competition as well. And what you can do if you want is you can do a follow-up prompt by saying, provide me with more details on the sales strategies of the competition. So let me copy this and put this in the document, and we are now done with sales strategy. Corporate culture is something that's very often overlooked in companies. We all know that when we work on teams in companies or in school, one bad apple, meaning one difficult employee, can destroy the entire culture. And so when it comes to Apple's culture, we're going to ask about work-life balance, emotional branding, creating new markets, and the culture of embracing mistakes. And that's really important because if you have a corporate culture where risk-taking is not enforced, then nobody is going to take a risk and innovation will die. So let's copy and paste this into ChatGPT to see what we come up with when it comes to culture and innovation for Apple. And here are the results. And the sources here are probably the best sources you can use online: Business Insider, Forbes, and Glassdoor, of course. Let's see what we came up with here. Okay, Apple views mistakes as opportunities for learning and improvement. That's really important to have a growth mindset and take risks in a company. Otherwise, you won't innovate and create products that will put a dent in the universe, so to speak. So innovation is at the core of Apple's corporate culture, hence these products here being created. Emotional branding, nobody is better at this than Apple. In terms of work-life balance, looks like it's got a very demanding work environment. You might want to drill down into this in more detail by asking ChatGPT for a follow-up on what this means and if employees burn out. Of course, they create new markets, quality of life being different. Their advertising campaign for many years was Think Different, which is also not just the brand-facing aspect of the company when you see advertisements, but also internally. People are encouraged to think differently as well. And you can read through the rest of this as well. And again, ask for follow-ups here in ChatGPT if you want. Let me copy this and paste this into the culture innovation section. Michael Porter is a brilliant Harvard Business School professor who came up with a framework called the Porter 5 Forces framework. And it's a great way to analyze companies from a qualitative perspective because you look at various aspects or 5 forces that impact the company. So in this prompt here, you'll see I asked a ChatGPT, or I'm going to perform a 5 forces framework analysis and include these keywords here. So I'm going to copy this and we're going to go to ChatGPT. And if we want, we can even ask ChatGPT for help with this by saying this exactly. Tell me about the Porter 5 forces model in 10 words, max per force. And this will give you a nice outline of exactly what this means. So as you can see here, the 5 forces are supplier power, meaning bargaining strength of suppliers affects pricing. You never want to purchase all of your products, meaning the inputs, from one company. You want co-opetition. You want them to compete with each other to get the best pricing. You've got buyer power as well. And quite often with publicly traded companies, especially ones that just went public, during the Q&A session on the quarterly earnings call, analysts will ask, did you have any 10% customers? And you always want to diversify and make sure that no customer is more than, say, 5% of your revenue. It's kind of like running a diversified portfolio for yourself. I never recommend having more than 5% of your capital in any one stock. And this way you've got at least 20 stocks, which gives you great risk diversification from a portfolio management perspective. The same thing goes with companies. Another force here is competitive rivalry, threat of substitution, as well as new entrants. Substitutions means new products or new markets that could take material share from the product you have right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the prompt and ask ChatGPT to do a Porter 5 forces analysis for us. And what we can even do is after you finish the prompt here, you can ask ChatGPT to put this in a table with 2 columns. One column is the Porter 5 force and an example of how Apple thinks about this. You can even add multiple more columns for the competition. Let's see what ChatGPT comes up with here. And here are the results. And you can always click, obviously, in these links to get more details on the sources. So right here, we've got the first force, which is competition cutting prices. Of course, they discuss Samsung and to a lesser extent, Huawei in China from a pricing perspective. But Apple is really perceived as a premium brand, as we all know. So they're not as competitive with pricing when it comes to competition with Android, for example. Next up, you got suppliers increasing pricing. And what Apple has done actually is from a vertical integration perspective, they started making their own processors and their own components as well, so that they're not subject to increases or volatile price changes from suppliers. They even make the glass that's in a lot of their own stores, the Apple retail stores. Next up, we've got customers demanding lower prices. You can read through this, new entrants as well. And then you've got substitute products and other comments here. Here are the sources. So I'm going to do a follow-up right now and ask ChatGPT to put this into a table. And here are the results here. I don't like the way it looks because if you just copy and paste this, it doesn't look good. I'm going to show you a way around this. So if I paste this here, it would look like that. That's not really workable. So what we can do is, and I have this copied up here, show me this in markdown table format without using a code box. So let me submit it again with this comment here. There we go. That's much more readable. So if we wanted to, you can copy and paste that directly into your Word document. What I recommend also doing is asking ChatGPT to add another column for the competition. So let's type this. Add a third column for the competition, i.e. Samsung. And let's see what it comes up with. Even with that typo, it'll work. Amazing. Did a great job here of adding Samsung. Of course, you can add additional competitors to the right of this by inserting new columns if you want to. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get this format here, which works best in our Word document. I'm going to copy this, paste this, and we are now done with the Porter 5 forces model. The product lifecycle framework is a superb framework to use when you want to understand at what point in the life cycle is a particular product or service. Now, there's 4 different phases to it. The first phase is the introduction phase. And this is for a new product. We're not sure how it's going to do yet. For example, the Apple VR product or whatever future product they're going to release. So that's the introduction phase. Then you've got the growth phase where revenue growth is accelerating or very rapid. And that might be a product like a new iPhone, for example, if growth is still relevant within that category. Then you've got the maturity phase where growth is definitely decelerating and slowing down a lot. And that might be, let's say, one of their Mac product lines. It's not really growing very much. Maybe a desktop because everybody wants to buy laptops these days, for example. Then there's the decline phase, which is a product that's in decline. And usually when a technology product or any product in major markets goes into the decline phase, it's really hard to ever reaccelerate growth. So for IBM, for example, the decline phase would be their mainframe products. So let's copy this directly into ChatGPT to see what the results are. As always, you can add more tags down here, separated with comma, put them in all caps, or you can remove some of these as well. So let me copy this. We'll go to ChatGPT and paste this in. And if you're ever not sure what a certain term is in business or in finance, you can always ask ChatGPT to tell you in 20 words or less. I like to say 20 words or less usually, otherwise it rambles forever and less is more. Let's see what it came up with here for the product lifecycle. All right, let's check it out. The introduction phase doesn't really list any products here. Now, keep in mind, please, that this analysis is using ChatGPT, where the data is not perfectly up to date. You can run this again if you want to in Google Bard, or you can use Microsoft's Edge browser to look at Bing Chat, or you can use the plugin here to look at, or the feature to look at Bing Chat, meaning browse with Bing, within ChatGPT to get more up-to-date information. Okay, so it talks about the growth phase and some products here. Maturity phase, decline phase, this will be interesting. The iPod Touch, that's certainly in decline. And of course, you've got other commentary here and all the resources. You can even ask ChatGPT to do the same thing for the competition and ask ChatGPT to provide you with a list of more products or services within each of these phases here. Let me copy this and paste this into our research document here. The Boston Consulting Group framework, also called the BCG framework, is developed by the Boston Consulting Group, which is one of the best consulting firms in the world. Now, what it does is it measures and graphically it shows you on a chart what the market share is for a certain product or service versus the growth for that. And the easiest way to explain this is by looking at an image. Since this is an AI course, what I'm going to do is let's go to Bard actually and ask Bard to show us an image of it. Show me an image and nothing else of the BCG framework. And let's see what it comes up with. Now, the great thing about using Bard is quite often you can get 3 different drafts, meaning 3 versions if you want. So there's other drafts you can select. So let's just go with this one here. This is good enough. And of course, you can search the internet as well, which might be faster. So here's how it works. So on this axis here, you've got market share, okay? And here you've got market growth. And the way it works is if a product or a service of yours in the company you're doing analysis on has really high market share and really high market growth, it's called a star. Okay. Right here, we've got low market share and high market growth. And so this here is called a question mark. And this is usually for brand new products, right? And growth is high because the year-over-year comps are easy. Then down here, you've got what's called a cash cow, where you've got low market growth, but really high market share. And here, this is a dog. I don't know why, but basically what that means is low market share and low growth. Now, let's go to our Word documents and let's copy the prompt we have right here, which asks us to create the Boston Consulting Group framework analysis when it comes to Apple. And down here, I pasted all the quadrants that we talked about in that image. So let me copy this and we'll go here to ChatGPT and we'll paste this to see what ChatGPT has to say about Apple when it comes to the BCG framework. All right, let's take a look at the results here. So let's kick it off with the star quadrant. According to ChatGPT, The iPhone is in the star quadrant, meaning it's high market share, high growth, debatable. Next up, you got the question mark, which means it's a brand new product. And here it's the AR or VR product that Apple is going to release or has released by the time you've watched this video potentially. Then you've got the cash cow quadrant right here, which is their iPad product and Mac product, which is really not growing that quickly. Next up, we have the dog quadrant, meaning the products in decline that aren't growing. And of course, you've got the iPod here, and you've got additional commentary here as well on the BCG framework. As always, you can ask ChatGPT to do this again for the competition. So let me copy this and paste this into our document, and we are now done with the BCG framework. One of the best ways to analyze companies from a qualitative perspective is to use what's called the SWOT analysis, SWOT, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so what we're going to do is we're going to ask ChatGPT to analyze this using these tags right here. So let me copy this and paste this directly into ChatGPT for Apple's analysis of SWOT. Let's see what it came up with. So we'll kick it off here with strengths. It's got an incredible brand. They've got an amazing ecosystem as well. They call it the halo effect to the extent that you buy an iPhone and it's compatible with all other products from Apple. So you want to buy an iPad, a MacBook Pro, etc. In terms of weaknesses, it's very dependent on iPhone sales. Let's see what else. They've got a closed ecosystem, which means that sometimes their products don't work perfectly with other products. You certainly cannot customize a Mac and build it yourself. You buy it pre-made. Opportunities, new products such as AR, VR, and maybe the Apple TV product as well, which is really not high growth for them right now. In terms of threats, you've got geopolitical threats as well as regulation from different bodies around the world, government bodies. Of course, you got competition from Samsung and to a lesser extent, Huawei in China. And then other comments here as well. So this does a really good job, actually. And what you can do if you want is you can always put this into a table with the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities in one column, as well as the commentary that ChatGPT comes up with here. And you can add another column as well for the competition. So let's do that really quickly. And here are the results right here. This is not that easy to read. So what we can always do is you can type exactly this. Show me this in markdown table format without using the code box. There we go. And let's actually copy this up here because I like this format better for our Word document. And let's paste it in. And we are done with the SWOT analysis. When it comes to analyzing a company's M&A history and strategy, meaning mergers and acquisition history and strategy, it's important to understand if the company has a lot of organic growth or if they're buying growth. And so a lot of mature companies, what they'll do is they realize they can't grow quick enough using internally generated R&D, research and development. And so instead of building, they'll buy. So there's always the question of buy versus build. And so a lot of companies will hire investment bankers to help them buy companies so it looks like revenue growth is actually growing faster than it is. So when it comes to M&A strategy, we're going to ask ChatGPT to find all info about a company's material, meaning large M&A deals in the past. And I'm also asking ChatGPT here to list the dollar size of the deal and if the deal was all cash or stock, meaning dilutive to shareholders. And this is important because what I want to do is after we do this analysis, I want to ask ChatGPT to make a chart to visualize the M&A. And that's why I asked ChatGPT to give the dollar size as well. In terms of additional tags, and you can always delete or add more tags here, what we're going to ask ChatGPT to do is to give us all past deals, as well as deals the competition has done, and then talk about gaps in the company's product portfolio. This is important because quite often when I meet with the management team of a company, one of the first questions I'll ask is something like this. How should we think about gaps in your product portfolio? And that's kind of an indirect way to ask the management team what are you going to buy? Of course, they won't tell you, but they might give you some color in terms of gaps in their product portfolio longer term. Now, of course, we like companies to build versus buy because it's better for shareholders longer term because you don't have to give up a lot of cash or create new options to fund that deal. Other questions we're going to ask are gaps in the competition's product portfolio as well. And this is important because sometimes if the competition has the same gap, then there might be a bidding war for another private or publicly traded company. In addition, we can ask this question here. Has the company been approached as an M&A target? Now, quite often there are rumors about deals, and obviously Apple is too big to be acquired. But quite often the press will publish articles about this. And the way that journalists do this is they'll never reveal their sources, but they'll always say, according to people familiar with the matter, a certain company might get acquired by another. And quite often it's correct if it's a reputable publication like the New York Times Deal Book or the Wall Street Journal, the FT, etc. And so what I've done in the past when I do my due diligence on companies is I've set up Google Alerts by going to alerts.google.com, and I'd enter in the company name as well as this in quotes, according to people familiar with the matter. And that way I'll get immediate Google alerts if there's press or speculation about a deal. Now, obviously, insider information is against the law, but the press is allowed to do this without transacting on it. They never reveal their sources. Other tags that we're going to ask ChatGPT to tell us about is, has the competition been approached as an M&A target, previous large M&A deals in the sector, and then just additional M&A commentary. Okay, so let me copy this, and we'll put this into ChatGPT to see what it comes up with. Now, with Apple, I'm expecting ChatGPT to talk about Beats, which they purchased years ago. I think it was for about $3 billion. We'll see what they come up with. All right. I don't see any mention of Beats in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask ChatGPT to do it again, but add more acquisitions that it made. Do it again, but give me many more M&A deals that Apple has participated in. Let's take a look at the results. Looks like it got Beats this time. Thank goodness. That was a big deal. And Apple usually doesn't make sizable acquisitions. They usually build versus buy. But let's take a look here. This is when Steve Jobs came back to the company when they purchased Next. Power Computing was a company that made Apple computers that wasn't owned by Apple. And then Apple decided to change that strategy by buying them. Akamai, that was a tiny investment for them. That's a CDN company. Aside from that, we've got Beats down here and a bunch of other ones as well. Okay, great. Good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this and put this in our research document. And then I'm going to ask ChatGPT to make a chart of all of this information, which is pretty powerful. So let's go back here and let's paste this. And down here, these are the details on exactly how to create a chart. So you see here, one of the steps is I type, provide me with a chart of, and nothing else of. And the reason I did that is because I don't want ChatGPT to give me tons of text. I just want a chart. So here's how you do it. So in my clipboard is already the answers of this prompt here. So let's go back to ChatGPT. Let's create a new chat right here. Provide me with a chart. Let's say bar chart. Bar chart of the following and nothing else. And let's paste this. All right, here's our chart here. Of course, I love visualizing stuff. You can see Beats is by far the biggest acquisition the company has done. So what I can do is I can ask ChatGPT to change this chart or just copy it as is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to remove deals that were, let's say, less than $100 million. Okay. do it again, but remove anything under 100 million in the chart. Here we go. Okay, great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and put this into our document. So I'll do a screen print here. And then what I'll do is I'll paste it in. The reason I'm doing a screen print is because quite often when you do this, it won't copy the actual chart if you right click and select copy. So what I'll do, and if you're a Windows user, I'm using Mac, you can read this instructions here for how to do what I just did in Windows. Okay, so let me go here and let me delete that, and I will insert the chart here. There we go. And we're done with our M&A analysis. Now, you'll notice here that there are lines on the side here. I didn't copy the chart perfectly. You can always select it, then go here to crop, and you can crop the image a little bit right here. There we go. When it comes to general corporate strategy, we can ask open-ended questions in ChatGPT to get commentary on what the company's strategy is. So I wrote here, what's the company's corporate strategy? I've also asked it to include barriers to entry, and these items down here, you can always add more tags here separated by comma, all in caps, or delete some of these. So I want to get information on the ecosystem building, innovation, the consumer experience, vertical integration, global expansion, strategic partnerships, and collaborations, diversification, and data-driven decision-making. Pretty open-ended. So let me copy this, and let's go to ChatGPT to get more details on Apple's corporate strategy. And here are the results. As you can see, it got some of the information from Harvard Business Review. You can't get any better than that when it comes to corporate strategy. And here are the results here. So it gives us more color on the ecosystem, innovation in terms of vertical integration. They're creating their own chips, etc., customer experience, and much, much more. And you can always ask ChatGPT to provide you with more color or more details on any one of these topics here in a follow-up prompt. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and put this into our document.